Professional wrestling history is filled with stories of triumph, of larger-than-life heroes doing the impossible. But there are also darker stories, tales of wasted talent, squandered potential, and mysteries that linger for decades, whispered about in locker rooms and on internet forums. Some wrestlers are forgotten because they just weren't good enough. Others fade away because their time simply passed. But a rare few are almost deliberately erased from the official history of the sport. They're the ghosts in the machine, the names you won't see in the Hall of Fame, the stories the industry's biggest promoter wants you to forget. This is the story of the greatest of those ghosts. He had the look, the skill, and a natural talent for making thousands of people despise him every single night. He was the total package, a guaranteed superstar, a ready-made main eventer for the global stage of the World Wrestling Federation. So why did the call from Vince McMahon, a man who famously loved making money, never come? The answer isn't just a simple business dispute. It's a secret that would not only keep a generational talent from the biggest stage in wrestling, but would also seal his tragic and mysterious fate. Before he was Gorgeous Gino, he was Charles Eugene Wolfe Jr., born in South Houston, Texas. Wrestling was in his blood. His stepfather, Luis Hernandez, was a respected performer, and his sudden death in 1972 set young Gino on a path to honor his memory by stepping into the squared circle himself. After graduating high school, he started training under the legendary Jose Lothario, who had also mentored a young Shawn Michaels. From the very beginning, it was clear that Gino Hernandez wasn't just playing a character, he was the character. He debuted as a fresh-faced babyface at just 17, and his good looks and natural charisma quickly won over female fans. But his true calling wasn't to be loved, it was to be hated. Early in his career, he turned on his mentor Lothario, sparking the classic teacher versus student feud that ended in a hair versus hair match, which Gino lost. It was a lesson in humiliation that he would soon perfect and inflict on others. This was the birth of Gorgeous Gino, also known as the Handsome Half-Breed. He was arrogance in a custom suit. He didn't just walk to the ring, he swaggered. He didn't just talk, he bragged, dripping with a kind of authentic disdain for the audience that you just can't fake. In an era where the lines between reality and performance, known as kayfabe, were sacred, Gino blurred them like no one else. He stood out as a prime example of 1980s wrestling excess. Legendary world-class championship wrestling announcer Bill Mercer noted that Gino began to live the gimmick outside the ring. He became the person he portrayed, a man who partied hard and lived a fast-paced life. This authenticity made the hatred from the fans feel real, because, on some level, it was. He was a natural heel, a performer born to be the villain. While Hulkamania was starting to run wild in the Northeast, the absolute hottest territory in pro wrestling in the mid-1980s was in Dallas, Texas. Fritz Von Erich's world-class championship wrestling was a phenomenon, turning its stars into rock gods who sold out football stadiums. And in this kingdom of adored, clean-cut heroes like the Von Erich brothers, Gino Hernandez became the perfect nemesis. After a brief, almost forgotten stop in the WWF, Gino found his home in Texas. He first made waves in Southwest Championship Wrestling, forming a tag team with another future legend, Tully Blanchard. Their team, sometimes called Pretty Boy International, had such chemistry as arrogant pretty boy heels that they became the top villains in the state. But his return to WCCW cemented his legacy. He feuded with David Von Erich over the Texas Heavyweight Championship, a title he would hold multiple times. In 1984, he formed a new, more famous version of the dynamic duo, this time with gentleman Chris Adams. This pairing was pure dynamite. Adams and Hernandez were the total opposites of the beloved Von Erichs, yuppie arrogance personified, and they drove the blue-collar Texas crowds insane. They pioneered the humiliating gimmick of carrying golden scissors to the ring and snipping the hair of their defeated opponents, a tactic designed to maximize fan outrage. Their feud with Kevin and Kerry Von Erich became the territory's central conflict, culminating in a legendary hair versus hair match at the Cotton Bowl on October 6, 1985. The dynamic duo lost, and Hernandez was forcibly given a haircut in the middle of the ring. But for a heel, this kind of humiliation was just fuel for the fire. The feud had made Hernandez an even more hated rival than the iconic Fabulous Freebirds. He was, without question, the top villain in one of the world's most successful wrestling promotions. He held multiple titles, including the NWA American Heavyweight and Texas Heavyweight Championships, and was a main event draw everywhere he went. The next logical step was national stardom. The next logical step was a call from Vince McMahon, but that call would never come. To understand why the phone never rang for Gino Hernandez, you have to understand the earthquake that was rocking the wrestling world in the early 1980s. For decades, pro wrestling in North America operated under a gentleman's agreement. The National Wrestling Alliance, NWA, was a collection of regional promoters, each with their own territory. You had your stars, I had mine, and we didn't poach each other's talent. It was a system that worked, creating regional superstars and distinct wrestling cultures all across the country. Then came Vincent Kennedy McMahon. After buying the World Wrestling Federation from his father, Vince had a vision that was anything but regional. He saw a future with one global wrestling empire, with his company at the center. He began what wrestling historians now call the territorial wars, a hostile takeover of the entire industry. He broke all the unwritten rules, airing his WWF programming in rival territories, poaching their biggest stars, and using his superior TV production and marketing to crush the competition. Promotions like World Class Championship Wrestling in Texas were directly in his crosshairs. WCCW was one of the few territories that tried to fight back, but they were in a losing battle against the WWF's media deals and the unstoppable cultural wave of Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon wasn't looking to coexist, he was looking to conquer. This changed everything. McMahon wasn't just looking for great wrestlers, he was looking for marketable superstars who fit his vision. He was building an army of larger-than-life characters to be soldiers in his war. This meant that if you were a top star in a rival territory, especially one fighting against him, you weren't seen as a potential hire, but as the enemy. Top regional heels like Gino Hernandez were obstacles to the WWF's total domination. So while there's no direct proof that Vince McMahon ever explicitly said, "I will not sign Gino Hernandez," the context of this brutal war makes the silence from the WWF deafening. Hernandez was a king in a kingdom that McMahon was determined to burn to the ground. Even if Gino Hernandez hadn't been the top heel for a rival promotion, there was a deeper, more personal reason he was radioactive to the WWF. It was the business secret that truly blacklisted him, his own lifestyle. As Vince McMahon was building his wrestling empire, he was also carefully crafting its image. He was moving away from the smoke-filled arenas and gritty realism of the territories and toward a more polished, family-friendly product. This was the era of the rock and wrestling connection, of Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T, and a superhero in red and yellow telling kids to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. The WWF was becoming a mainstream corporate entertainment brand. Gino Hernandez was the polar opposite of this image. The gorgeous Gino persona wasn't an act he just turned off. He lived it. He drove a Porsche, wore custom suits, and was a fixture at the hottest nightclubs in Houston and Dallas. His life was a whirlwind of parties, women, and, most dangerously, drugs. Colleagues from that era are frank about the culture at the time. Many wrestlers use drugs, but by all accounts, Gino's use went far beyond recreational. His manager and mentor, Gary Hart, recalled visiting Gino's home and being shown a sugar bowl filled to the brim with cocaine. Hart pleaded with him to get clean, but Gino was unapologetic. His ex-girlfriend, Jeannie Clark, later known as Lady Blossom, described terrifying incidents where a drug-fueled Hernandez would fall into deep states of paranoia, even brandishing a gun. He was known to associate with unsavory characters and was rumored to be involved with drug dealers. To the new corporate WWF, Gino Hernandez wasn't a top heel. he was a massive liability. In an era where McMahon was trying to sell his product to national advertisers and put his wrestlers on lunchboxes, a talent with a serious public drug problem and connections to a dangerous underworld was poison. He was unreliable, unpredictable, and a public relations nightmare waiting to happen. The WWF was building its future around marketable heroes. They had no place for a gorgeous, arrogant, cocaine-addicted villain, no matter how talented he was. The secret wasn't that Gino was a bad wrestler. It was that he was too good at being a bad guy, both in and out of the ring. And in Vince McMahon's New World Order, that was a risk he was completely unwilling to take. By late 1985, Gino Hernandez's brilliant career was starting to crack under the weight of his personal demons. His final great storyline in WCCW was the implosion of the dynamic duo. On Christmas Day 1985, he turned on his partner Chris Adams, setting the stage for what was supposed to be the territory's biggest feud of 1986. The angle was venomous and personal. In a now infamous segment, Hernandez claimed to have developed a new hair cream. During a confrontation, he threw the substance into Adams's eyes, supposedly blinding his former partner. To sell the injury, Adams wore bandages over his eyes in public and was guided around by his girlfriend. The hatred for Gino reached a fever pitch. He was, once again, the most despised man in Texas. But behind the scenes, the man himself was unraveling. The cocaine use had escalated into a severe addiction, bringing on crippling paranoia. He became convinced that he was being followed and that his life was in danger. He told WCCW official David Manning he needed a gun because they were coming for him. When Manning asked who they were, Gino was evasive, only deepening the sense of dread. He even told his own mother he had crossed the wrong people and feared for his life. His unreliability, once a manageable frustration, became a serious problem. In the final weeks of his life, he began no-showing events, a cardinal sin in the wrestling business. It was a clear sign that something was terribly wrong. The once invincible king of the Texas heel scene was spiraling, consumed by the very lifestyle that had defined his persona. The clock was ticking, and no one knew how little time was left. In early February 1986, Gino Hernandez no-showed 2 straight WCCW events. This time, it raised serious alarms. Worried, WCCW official David Manning and referee Rick Hazard went to his upscale Highland Park apartment to check on him on February 4th. What they found would become one of wrestling's most chilling and enduring mysteries. The door to his apartment was unlocked, a detail that immediately seemed strange, as Gino was known to be meticulous about locking his deadbolt. Inside, they discovered his body. He had been dead for several days, and his body was already decomposing, making it impossible to determine a cause of death at the scene. He was only 28 years old. The shock quickly gave way to a storm of rumors. His death was initially investigated as a homicide, but soon the official story emerged. After an autopsy, the Dallas medical examiner ruled his death an accident, the result of acute cocaine intoxication. The toxicology report was staggering. According to reports, Gino had 5 to 8 times the lethal amount of cocaine in his system. The medical examiner was reportedly baffled, stating he didn't understand how it was physically possible for a person to ingest that much of the drug. Reports also claimed that cocaine was found in his stomach, adding another layer of confusion. The official cause was an overdose, a tragic but sadly not uncommon end for someone living that life. But for many, the story didn't add up. The insane amount of drugs, the unlocked door, and Gino's own paranoid warnings all pointed to something far more sinister. The case was officially closed, but the mystery was just beginning. For over 3 decades, the official ruling of an accidental overdose has been rejected by many fans, wrestlers, and even Gino's own family. The story of his death became a centerpiece of Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, which explored the mountain of inconsistencies and conspiracy theories that just won't go away. The questions are haunting. If it was an overdose, why was there no drug paraphernalia found at the scene? How could he have ingested a fatal dose 5 times over, including in his stomach, all on his own? And why was his deadbolt, which he obsessively locked, open? The murder theory suggests that Gino's dangerous associations finally caught up with him. He had told people he owed money to a dangerous drug syndicate. David Manning recalled seeing Gino with unsavory characters and felt he was getting in with the wrong crowd. The prevailing theory is that he was the victim of a hot shot, a deliberately lethal overdose forced on him to settle a debt or to silence him. This would explain the impossible amount of cocaine in his system. His own mother came to believe her son was murdered, a conviction she held for the rest of her life. The rumor mill produced countless other theories. Wrestling legend Bruce Pritchard has stated that even Andre the Giant believed Gino had been shot and that it was covered up. Others, like Michael Hayes of the Fabulous Freebirds, have always maintained that they believe it was foul play. Some have speculated about gambling debts. His ex-wife even floated the bizarre theory that he might have faked his own death, something she claimed he talked about. This theory is fueled by the fact that due to the body's decomposition, his family was not allowed to view the body before his closed casket funeral. No one has ever been charged. The case was never reopened. The identity of the "they" who Gino feared remains a secret. All that is left are official documents that tell one story, and the chilling testimony of his friends and family that tells another. The death of Gino Hernandez remains what it has always been, a tragic wrestling cold case, where the lines between a self-destructive lifestyle and a potential murder are forever blurred. In the years after his death, a strange thing happened to the legacy of Gino Hernandez. Or rather, nothing happened. As Vince McMahon's WWF became the undisputed king of wrestling, the histories of the territories he conquered were absorbed and rewritten. The massive tape library of world-class championship wrestling eventually became the property of WWE. Yet, when WWE produces documentaries on the legendary WCCW, Gino Hernandez is often conspicuously absent. His classic feuds with the Von Erichs and his iconic partnership with Chris Adams, some of the most important moments in the territory's history, are either glossed over or ignored completely. It's an erasure. The reasons are likely twofold. First, the scandalous nature of his death, mired in cocaine and potential murder, was the opposite of the family-friendly history WWE prefers to project. Second, he never worked for Vince McMahon. In the victor's version of history, those who weren't part of the empire are often just footnotes. But for those who saw him, Gino Hernandez was unforgettable. He was the lost art of the perfect heel. Long before The Rock, Gino had the $1 million charisma and custom suits. Long before the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Gino was the embodiment of arrogant wealth. He was a pioneer of the sports entertainment villain that would become a staple of the WWF in the years after his death. Many have said he would have been a perfect fit for the Four Horsemen, a natural foil for Ric Flair. He was a generational talent whose career was confined and ultimately extinguished by the dying territory system and his own personal demons. He was a king in a kingdom that no longer exists, a ghost whose story is a stark reminder of the dark side of the wrestling business. Gino Hernandez was a wrestling tragedy long before his death. He was a superstar who never saw the global stage, a main event talent blacklisted by the one man who could have made him an international icon. His story is a chilling what if. What if the call from Vince McMahon had come? Would it have saved him? Or would the machine have simply chewed him up and spit him out? We'll never know. What do you think? Was Gino's death a tragic accident or one of wrestling's darkest, unsolved murders? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into one of wrestling's forgotten stories, make sure to subscribe for more.